오다 나랑도 리된 밀리를 뭐지 하이 라이텐 통근도 밀리도 톱시스네 다지 몰람 자거 가서 밀리도 오늘 지 다긴 주주선 밀리도 톱시스네 라도서 밀림 몰람 자거 오다 텐데 가서 몰람 자먹고 톱디어 오다 딘다왜 텐데 다 직최 머두지 아니 치바이나 방화래 라브레 미 조르덴지 아니 딱이 공도 주시 나지지 아니 베 누르르 뭐지 제 감지든 제바나진지 당가서 최 맞아도 서 센디 자자 짱짱로 팀 대바이나 답베 미 다저 동로 어생디 차고 오다 된지기가 말해서 오다 대순 거래 처음 미다바 삼진 콤버체베 파이니 디치레소 탐제트베 우지부 셰버자오 스타팅 원에리 디치 세데 센디 최시 제바이 최날마지 제바이나 센디 루선 탐제 대완지야 시만이 직원이 전주나 손다 장주 생기 따지나 내내 대완 로알 심지서 일운중 제 손아진지네 오늘 껴와 치만이 원토 라당 미 공판 유니 원토 공판 유니 은 상기 살 도야지 그지 시고 근데 디치레서 탐지기 두고 고지 부셔야 돼 뭐마 뭐다 집하기 차리어 어떻들이 딘데 인디갈라다 치와 미다바 삼바 대양 신두 류롱제 lui longje nyen tu la sopa chape wangi dedang rawala tapa chebal lamla ye jambe chiwala talu imbe ter kyawani minna sta chik mone wada tere yang chiwa mida ba sheyade ngama kamla kemboji cheshek chesungan dore chesungan rodi gala ani kembodo ngoshe ba chigi 제가 연데 컴퓨터들이 유효 말에 아니 접시들라 컴퓨터 카페스인데 접시 되게 아니 배 컴퓨터 보모드서 가르소래 지난 꼴가도 손체 봐라 어다 된지 존지 삼다바이나 지난 게 존지 삼다바이나 다 만디 봐라 이 좋아합니다 봐 셰고에 기생 가르래 나랑 뭐야 니출라 개치치게 되면 누군데 거 이 통대게 배 미다바 참으래 미다바랑 빠신데 유제베 왕기 아니 배 친구야 세네 미다바라 받아 치와시 가 치와시 때도 암전에 돼요 미기 통해요래 그러와 당오늘 캄바진도야서 봤다지 미친데 알아서 봐야니 가르도 게알아서 봤다 남이라 연구로와 어떻게서 치와라 빠래 라빠디 용나 참으면 라빠 용해고 요 말와 맞아 센리바기 갈바 동자까지 시기요 디왕이 그런 주도로게 내진 주도도 된지 시기요 이 시용되고 고개치긴 집아지 맨나 된지 내진 주도 톡다가 레아코랑 요 말와 이게 뭐 질러 전에 무슨 누구라 왔다 된지 뭐예요 저 시기요 지나노야 가자 말해 뭐예요 저 된지지 아니 딜라 좀 대버린다라 단다 미 리센트 터버린다라 던댕기 자와 가르쳐거래 시디가라 던댕이다 두스쳐거래 저 어떻게 숨은 거로 마도 지난 굴에까지 딴 싸워니 차고 말해 어떻게 워나 강념나스 레닝기 왕기 왕기 닌삼저와 탐제 지와라 만데 텔 잡아지 리시 가파니 미니 데르와 온장 지든 치메던 두바 마중war 치와라 지바케데 서와다 대수다 지든 치마 펜제니 땡기 째서 수야기 다 달은 고갑이 고갑은 도란 디기미도 설답에 파마쳐고 마도 지 친구들이 ngamda tingin zone jikaji shina mani pat tati kechi shikor tati 과대 추요 말 어디 시거래 대삼나 때다 좀니 지가를 미자버 집이 지로 다디 삼다나 어다 데리 다 기와 치마 아니 소소 덴디 삼다네 아니 단데 고갑데 마셔 취잖아 다 지워질래나 니미지데 드는데 같이 미저 트라타메 강 데버링라 닝고도 같이 단 줘봐메 삼바지 줘봐 타마지나 줘봐 미미치 줘봐 랍지 가 치와라가 제 송도와 와다 대전에 바게 라렌 수디메나 두와 루이킨 롱가 남친 좀베 볼 세대 최난다 책임지나 치와라 가와요 거 가르잖아 맞죠 풍보대 밤에 구달을 좀 풍보대 제고 게진 khoyo 거 게진 khoyo 거라 진 남만지 두베나 남시된 롱가 사바지는 저걸로서는 좀 마도 양리고 딩저요 리 사르들이야 되는 밀리 뭐지 톱이야 딩저지에 있는 리긴도 관람 신도 볼세 뭐야 잘고 어다 땡지 오그래 땡지 지원에 또다 순고 어다 딱박이야서 말해 같이 단디 리센디 똥새도 미당아 니 뭐야 성가서 토바데 돈날데 바시 지긴 삼데 땡지지 로키야 돈달라 어다 지원합니다 바시 체리어 어다 돈다들이
The next topic, here is impermanence and the death and impermanence. So, how to think about the brevity of this life, death and impermanence? We should think about how being unmindful of death is the main cause of the whole heap of mistakes performed in this and future lives, and how familiarity with death and impermanence is advantageous. The soul means for achieving everything excellent in this and future lives. So it tells kind of importance of benefit of having a good understanding of death and dying, and basically impermanence. So the opposite side, which is as we mentioned earlier, the feeling or the feeling or sense of that I'm going to stay for a long time. Such as, I'm not going to die tomorrow, not week, not next month. And what we are doing is we are kind of, giving ourselves a time which is really not definite, in future. So along with that, we are not mindful of, this, the momentary changes. And so with that, in here it says that becomes the cause of the whole the mistakes of this lifetime as well as a future lifetime, and so therefore the actual understanding or familiarity with the death and impermanence is very advantageous, and here it says kind of it's the soul, the only the means way to achieve everything excellent in this life as well as future life. So it shows really kind of emphasize the importance of the meditation or practice of impermanence. And in some texts we find using example like somebody who is extremely rich but he spent his entire life accumulating a wealth, and then at the end of life he exchanged all of his wealth with one kind of mouthful of food. That's really kind of wasteful of your entire lifetime's effort. And this human rebirth, as we mentioned earlier, sacred, precious. In Buddhist understanding, this is also that is kind of envious by higher beings such as the God and deities. They also make prayers to attain this kind of human rebirth. And so the fear of being separated from your body, possessions, and relatives of this life to which you are attached, caused by thinking about death, is not the fear intended here for what is for here, for that is the fear of one who has no understanding of the path. So here, the reason why we are, engaged in this understanding of, our own kind of, death and dying. The text it kind of says that, because when we talk about death and dying, we are talking about separating from our own really kind of dear body, our relatives, our possessions, family members. So it is not kind of, something that make us scared, that make us fear, although, these are bound to happen. There is a story again in the Eastern Tibet in which, there's a saying that there was a abbot of a monastery, and somebody came to see him, and then his kind of assistant responded that he is not there, not at home, and then the person who came to look at him, find to meet abbot, asked him where did he go, and the assistant mentioned that he went out to the town to scare away old peoples, because he went to like senior living houses, especially the senior people, to give teachings about the impermanence. So if you don't know how to listen it correctly, it might seem like it's kind of scaring you away, from your own way of living. So that is not the objective here. So what is this about? Then it says, everything that is born from a union of parents due to the forces of action and disturbing emotions is bound to die. And although you may fear it cannot be avoided. So the death and dying is inevitable. There's no way to avoid this kind of the process in our life. Moreover, until we have accomplished the purpose of our future lives, we will continue to fear death. If you think about that and realize at the same time of death, you will have no fear. The actual way to think about death are to reflect on the inevitability of death, the uncertainty of the time of death, and that only the doctrine that can help at the time of death. When we talk about impermanence, understanding in Buddhism is that impermanence, as you know, there are two types. One is subtle impermanence, another is gross impermanence. The gross level of impermanence is easy to see, experience through our physical senses. We can see them, we can hear, we can touch, certain destructions, death and dying. But the subtle impermanence, that's the important here, the momentary changes. And that's what it's talking here, right from the time we're born. Every moment, the stage it's like a death and dying. We are dying. Just so we need to understand this subtle moment of momentary changes. And when we talk about the big changes of for a long period of time, countless eons or million years, those big changes happen because of the subtle changes that is happening in a very kind of subtle way, what we call momentary changes. And so here what is important is that when you think about and have a good understanding of death and dying, at the time of dying, instead of kind of becoming really scared, you become really comfortable. You'll be at peace, joy. So there's a saying that for practitioners of very low level, at the time of dying, they have at least no regret. But of course, practitioners of high level, when at the time of dying, they embrace dying. They die very kind of happily, with full of satisfaction. And the reason here is that because during when they are alive, with the understanding of each moment, momentary changes, going closer to death, they use it in a meaningful way. They make it so in the text like 37 practices of bodhisattvas, noble beings, we find expressions such as the body, which is like which is like a guest house, and the consciousness use this body as a guest house and then just leaves it, later depart it, So, at the time of dying, the practitioners, because of living a meaningful life, instead of having a fear, as said earlier, they have a sense of satisfaction, and when they look back, they have this strong feeling of satisfaction or conviction that I have spent my life well, a meaningful way. So, this separation of consciousness and the body is very nature of the process, and because of my good action that I've created, I'm just, going to get another body. So the way they look at, the procedures or the, this death and dying is very optimistic, and it becomes really kind of, something, process of peacefulness and something very calming instead of being, kind of scary and something that ordinary people don't want to face. Samshambe. Shida Shibjurish. So, because we will remaining time we will use for discussions, questions if you have. You can ask any questions related to, Buddhism. Not necessarily has to be the textbook.
Is there a proper way to meditate?
Gom jabdan. Gom yagosin jabdan ro chedan ro shoresa gom yago jab.
Oh, today yes, wa. Namdul namdul jana la, jine kaptu tadan kan pe misibe yabo res. Gom pechakang tan gom jabina, tanda 세교나 진정이 있으면 또 수성마다나 배적경정 따디 곰게나 양균 또도 수용 거래. 어떤 디니가 전주기 있으면 나 니시도 사모야고 싶당. 아니 거기 곰 류기 대산테서 즉 남남게 최든데서 남림 남들라잖아. 살고야 살타져야 돼. 이니 즉 sem기 켈소데 바기 당보 미대가라 대디가라 당보 고발레기리 고파 가산데 당 템바데 시신도 송서래 아니 그래서 바기 삼된 페리라 따라 디네 가로지 거고 도그리 아니 디토니 디 남린 남들라장 로기나 때 팬도 쉬고 어때는 거는 세부도 배저 세셔지리 그 돌아 인지미 지진에 갑도 따세 semkeni majine kapto chasanchilo thona permissive yabores
Giz is saying, of course, but he was referring to this book that we just finished, Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. You can look at the section where the text deals with the calm abiding meditation. But simply having an intellectual understanding of how to meditate, it won't be so effective. So what is sort of more important is having some understanding of, as we mentioned earlier, about compassion, love, kindness, altruistic mind. These are the ones that is really helpful. And when you do meditation, also, how to maintain physical postures. This is one book which actually is one of the best book on how to do a meditation. And maintaining physical postures. There are 7 of them, which the book kind of listed. And then when you sit and try to kind of focus on whatever object of observation that you have, when focusing, you will experience, the what we call mental, agitation and mental laxity or dullness, the mental problem in attention. So when you face those, what are the antidotes that you apply? So one of the kind of helpful images that we try to understand calm abiding meditation and single pointed and then obstacles and how to apply antidote. We call the images of the contemplation, which is that image over there, in the frame. Yeah, that one. It also has on the side some the notes that tells you, so that so after reading, if you look at that image, it will kind of really give you kind of clear, precise picture and how one should be meditating and what are the obstacles, how are the antidotes applied.
당보 게데 고파용으로 고파다라 타라니요래. 아니 샘데 미데가라 내용도가라 하장 샘 유튜브 공기 지와리게 지와라 타라니용거래. 디닌 용디가라 따페 매아송은 튕긴 따띠 가서래. 디기 님포선지라 전시해야 돼. 미스 템바의 시진이 시부지 튕긴데 공기 튕긴 이유는 땡이래. 땡이 시부지 깨지 못 자고 그래.
So following kind of that image, you will see the first kind of most strongest, or the first disturbances or obstacle is, as we mentioned earlier, it's mental agitation or mental sometimes excitement. Basically, mind not focusing; it goes everywhere. And then that mental agitation or excitement has two types: subtle and gross level. And the another obvious obstacle is mental laxity or mental dullness, which makes your mind lack of clarity, lack of intensity. So when you face these two kind of problems, the two most effective tools that we have in meditation is what we call mindfulness and introspection. So these two are the one that you use in order to sort of control your mind and attention. So these are the two tools that you use.
시진디기 미데글라 샘네도 미도 자라짱인데 갈카나 마도토나 갈카나 소바디에나 칠로닌 라용구도 미도 땅인데 소빌리 가라와 단 라용디여이나 따디 동렌지니 자들라 탑조증인데 따디 브루스 라바샤고로 브루스 주관도 고거라 순간도 고거라 와다 디존이 있잖니 아니 샘네디 자라 시진기 자라지니 엔 타마 샘데 네르메바 시진 하거나 시 아니 템베기 양 샘디 미데갈 양샤고 와 템베 미데갈 트리 데야데 템베레 가래 어디 템베기 젤레트리 미데갈 트리 샘드네야 어디 두스지데라 전신이다 튕긴 쫓아디요.
So these two sort of instrument, mindfulness and mindfulness and introspection. These are two mental factors, and we commonly use metaphor of for the introspective mind, the way it functions or the way we use. Introspective mind, it acts like the role of like a spy. Spying. It look at the major mind, what we call a major mind, or primary mind, whether it is on the object of the observation or not. So it is kind of the role is spying. So if the introspective mind find that the mind is not on the object of the observation or the target and it's wandering away, it doesn't go and catch it, and it just informs to the mindfulness. So the mindfulness is the one that acts like a cop. It actually goes and kind of arrest the mind and bring back to the the target. Make sure. So mindfulness is the one that really makes the mind stay at whatever that you are trying to focus, to make sure that it stays there continuously. So therefore we use these two kind of mental factors when we meditate. Introspection and the mindfulness.
니무디지 게요래 양 니방마요는 디 도지쟁이 니무디지게 데미팅죠 님보다는 디지 게스디 셔야 그래서 람드런들라잖아 뺏세 보여래.
So the more detail we usually talk about meditating, especially the karma abiding meditation we talk about, including those two, there are 5 what we call obstacles or barriers or pitfalls or fallacies, and that when you sit and meditate and try to focus, these are the one that actually arises in your mind and makes your meditation disturbed or but for that again Kishel said you'll find more detail in this book. There are what we commonly call 8 antidotes that we apply for specific barriers or problems.
단단히 해야 돼. 또 더남 왕도 제가 유진 가사 동이다 미다바다 계속 없나? 보다 단단히 그 시간들이 단 신나무 공단 제가 있나? 니지도 지고나 양한테 말해. 샘당 유디 유진진의 오냐 말해. 랑기 샘디 니지 미남야 우지 삼다. 니지 미남 삼다네. 샘디 니지 물론 좋아지고 와. 이 신나무 공단에 공단 가봐요. 공단 만나진 두요. 공 캐버 강같이 진 원세대 강아도 쓰는데 나로 섬을 그 캐버 첨부야. 유딘데 나한테 찍봐야 돼. 섬이 계속 캐버 첨부야. 어떻게 네가 다 니지 고민이나 우리 야구하래 니지도 곰다. 아니 안에서 곰거래. 니지 미는 야구 잡고 장네. 니지기 니빠 생체탄지를 밀어와. 나빠 누가 란데기 나봐. 누가 란데기 나빠서 누가 돼야 차반 뒤치 기둥하를 마도 유리 누가 좀 말해. 어때 된다왜 차반 뒤치 기둥하나? 또저 망고지 마가 차반 뒤치 기둥한 거 줘야 가고. 이 두스지네. 니 샘니 니지 거는 좋아하시거든. 본다는 것이 배약고 실수하는 다 배약쇼 때리. 장 돈도지 메사나 자데 메 모르고와. 만도에 메나진 자르고와. 데나진 랑기 니지 랑기 샘디야 니지 뭐 파르너 아니 젠지 동안 땅돌아네 둘은 미저비지. 예. 디 둘은 미저비 깨야되기. 즉 니주셔라는 동안 섬시래 때 땅둘란데 동아지당 당에 매베 동안 지기네 긴 동아되니라 남주 일맥이 개발 친구야 땅둘란데 동안데 새롭게 쪼도 제일리가라 시우지 집 포바게요 동안 지기네 용조데 동안 새롭게 쪼 매디도라 디게다 남게 사르바나지 다 뒤인 존 마도 텔라 맹기 니바테요 말에 맹기 저다제요 말에 사르 존나 남나나 버도 구규르 마도 텔라 제미도 보다 대조리 동아기 지구데 마제 버도 다 비제 마도 시레시레 제다요 나 데이도 선 데 마도 지 니모 왕기 중에 동아데 시우시가는 거 보다 맹기 이동한테 센투리아요 말에 다시 지 유디 제제 porto tape 지 레디 제제 porto 구규 마도 다 뭐니 마민가라 코 지금 아주 샤바진 따야 도와 니 온데가 제미 도와 어디 두수래 이케버려 이케버치 보여 여름 숨도 와 땅도는 배 동안데다 지기 빠데 동안이네 케버려 버렸어 경고는 지금은 무슨 와
the ways of doing a meditation, there are also at least like 6 different ways of doing meditation. Although when we look at the physical postures, it looks like doing a meditation. But what is happening inside the mind, it depends on what particular meditation that individual is doing. So one whole category would be ways of doing a meditation that is focusing on the something object outside of the mind, or object which is separate from our mind. So there's a subject and object, two totally different thing. But there's a whole another category of doing a meditation, which what we call meditating on the on the aspect of mind or consciousness, which is actually meditating on the another way of thought or mind, such as meditating on the compassion, love, kindness. When you do this kind of meditation, it is very different from the meditation that we discussed earlier. So, for example, meditating on compassion, you need to understand what you are aiming at, your object of the observation, that is the suffering of other sentient beings, and what you are generating thought within your mind when you aimed at that kind of suffering. The aspect of the that thought is to separate those sentient beings from the suffering. And when we talk about the suffering, we are not talking about ordinary suffering. Especially in Buddhism, we talk about three different kinds of suffering: suffering of change, and here we are talking about the third one, pervasive suffering or suffering of condition. So may they be separate from suffering of condition. Again, so when we talk about this, one has to have a good understanding of course, what is compassion, and and what is the suffering. And practitioners who is engaged in this kind of practice of meditation of compassion, they intentionally aiming at other sentient beings, and then they intentionally kind of sort of engage in the practice in which they kind of receives or embrace the sufferings of other sentient beings. So when they do that, although it's a kind of the suffering that they are receiving or kind of embracing, but it is really sort of different from suffering that people usually experience without any kind of power. So one suffering, on one hand, it is kind of suffering backed up by wisdom, intelligence. You voluntarily took it from others, and then you focused on it, and for that kind of meditation, practitioners, instead of sort of falling into kind of doomed darkness, gloomy situation, they become more intelligent, more broader-minded, more encouraged. But on the other hand, the suffering that we usually generally consider when you fall into something suffering, not able to use intelligence or wisdom, as if kind of falling under darkness. We become so kind of dominated, so kind of sort of torturing that so these two are really big differences, as His Holiness often kind of differentiates. And so in the second, the category of meditation, meditating upon generating another thought in your mind, such as compassion, love. One of the best example we see, by Kongda Rinpoche, the great scholar. He used an example of sort of iron ball in the fire. So if you leave iron ball in the fire, it will turn iron ball that itself turn into fire. So there's really, you cannot differentiate between fire and the iron ball. The iron ball itself will turn into kind of sort of fire. So that is how it becomes when we try to meditate on different kind of like love, compassion thoughts. Our mind itself naturally or within itself turns into nature of compassion, nature of love, so on and so forth. Yeah, Laurie.
Can I take a minute to make some announcements?
Sure.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Lori Smith. I'm Vice President on the IBC's Board of Directors. And first of all, I want to apologize if you didn't get a newsletter. It's not that you're off the list. Our secretary's had some legal matters to attend to. So past few, actually a couple of months, she's had a little trouble keeping up with the newsletter because it takes a lot of effort. So don't worry if you didn't receive one. What I would encourage is watch the calendar on the IBC website, because we do try to keep that up to date. And in particular, I want to point out, if anyone's interested in running for a position on the board of directors, as is mentioned in the newsletter, I think, we do have a meeting coming up this Tuesday night. But again, I would encourage checking the calendar before you head over here, because sometimes we do have last minute changes if people can't attend. But if you are interested in running for a board position, you do need to have attended at least one meeting. So this will probably be the last one before the nominations close in November. So you would want to attend Tuesday if you're interested. And anytime the board meetings are open to anyone to sit in on them, you're not obligated to be in a board position or anything like that. You just want to get more engaged in supporting Geshe and IBC in general and kind of find out what's going on. You're always welcome. So that will be here at 6:30 on Tuesday. Also, I want to point out regarding the calendar, both Geshe and Tenem have some trips planned. I think Geshe's is the first one, beginning around December 10th, and then Tenem will have some traveling after that. So I would encourage you between now and December 10th, when we have the benefit of both of them being here and time to translate, to attend as many teachings as you can. We will have activities going on while each of them are gone, but it's always, optimal when they both are here for the teachings. And while I'm talking about you guys, I just want to say thank you again to Matt here, who did a fantastic job of coordinating Petals for Peace, which I hear was a lot of fun and very successful. And we raised apparently the most money to support was it the hunger initiative that went for?
Interfaith Hunger Initiative and Gleaners.
Yeah.
And I'd like to thank all the people that rode and everyone that donated, because you guys are the real winners.
Yeah, it was really great. So please keep a date open on your calendar, which is December 7th. Tentatively, that's the plan for Mistletoe and Momos, which is when we have a party before Geshe leaves, and then also that's our annual membership meeting. So that's December 7th. And I think that's all my notes here. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have a question?
No?
Oh, okay.
How are you, Tony?
I'm good, thank you.
Tony?
Yeah, mate.
Just a question about like the long rim and the meditation topics, and sort of like engaging in a teacher-student relationship with a meditation teacher to meditate on the topics for like a long period of time, and how the lamas or the teachers determine the criteria of like, you've meditated on this long enough, it's time to move from meditating on renunciation to meditating on compassion, or how that works. And I've heard of stories of like the geishis at the monasteries, instead of going on to like the tantric college or going and getting initiations, when they get all done with their geishi degree, I've heard of stories where they just take the volume of the Lam Rim and go and retreat for the rest of their lives, basically, on the sutra topics, instead of going further for advanced practices. And I was wondering if Geshe-la could comment on that.
Tanda lamrim nanglo ne lama dalomege dewa shadang che ani jidang nyamne chide da miso gom jadi lago sir gom jadi zamar ani dal lomege gom jabe ani lamege che da ani da tsero di da deba di gom jadi kala gore nyejung di gom jadi chasar tene da ningje gol gom jagol da ji pazo pe la gore da che thor dang go la gore tende por da ani Kurang kuya chisna ane geshe kashi chazane geshe tuyan tsawada ya nga gyu dime dewa mando che ane lamrim chabi Kurang tola tsamdang dingi dine ta mizi lama chazan lamrim Kurang kum kyun dingi dine yusare esa ta digo la geshe la samchu kariyo la yusare
lalo kindewa chazade 당원이 개첨부 차고 라마라 라미엔데 두안시베 라미엔데 도데니시베 라미엔데 마니시베 라미엔데 배 배낭 마소 소리지는 근데 라마체리 진짜 상대와 말해 도데니시베 라미엔데 주도와 그거는 그냥 제창에 많다 연den지 가는 거래. 최 년바보데 체바보데 최책이 유해체지가 이치고 거래. 많다 되지고 거래. 수수 보다 딘지가라 지 라로군 대화 잡아라. 지 로주니 버도 다시 다야 되리. 유대는 숨도 쉬우게 좀 거래. 얘는 ngāgi lālu kundewa chiyaga shirush kachimba ele chudro nāngsu chudro chi agi lālu kundewa bācha chi nāngban su chokwa kachi chiyaga dhūs chibayi na di akshara zidi gyāng gyāng chidi sūdwa shirushi gyāngkurum chi lamdun zangbu chidi ani chi gomdera ta muni chatal chini gyōngenji ina lama gyū yuwa jiru wāi 아니 기주게 건 꺄니 다 그상 로션도 되면 로션 것이 차가와 이베 라마다년 동 로주루인데네 장주 선 특별히 소리도 기도 해도 집에 지겨래 이거가 무슨 다다 요래 만날에 딱 이게 동산에 이 누르데 털을 맞을 때마다 옌켄세세다 누구까지 나자바지 공 유자주가 갈라 아니 주로 되게 돼 또고 그게 되니 이제네 또공 야주 전에 상관하려고 어째 도스제네 또고 그게 의미는 뭐야 근데 요래 내 말에 어디 때나진 게 그것이 로 미슈스랑 때잡다니 도대체는 이 아버지는 말타게 요래 말아서 아니 말이 유저들이 전부도 이시 나름바지 제거하면서 양 유복한 자가 지기가 봐 이거라 이게 전부제 가는 기본은 거에 누수야 어디 야 이시 리지 말아 파 유리는 만들지 유리는 만들지 유저들은 만들지 그렇죠 양배 그럼 배 자갈지는 배 이제 배 남린 체지 원데 이거를 아마 벌려야 돼 배시 쉬어가라가라 아니 듀 건지를 못치 승인데 배 유를 마페지는 상 것이 나라 유지 배 자갈나 아니 바기니 이 진이 트렌테네 다만 다른 살아요 이진 배워 근데 요래 맨 말이 이래야지 단단히 그것이 다른 살에 진거 그리 공짜니 누수 중에 요래
The teacher-student relationship, of course, it's really important, and it's important to begin with, finding a right teacher, and finding a right teacher, making sure that a teacher has, right qualifications, and such as, we find the qualifications of teacher mentioned in the Buddha's own teaching sutra, and required teachings, qualifications of the teachers according to the discipline text Vinaya. And we also find, the required qualifications of teacher according to the Vajrayana or Tantric, practice. So finding out teacher, qualified teachers. And in Tantric Vajrayana practice, for example, teacher has to have at least 20 qualifications, 10 inner, 10 kind of external, and in sutra 10 qualifications. So they, according to what kind of system or practice that you are going to follow, likewise, the teacher has to have qualifications. So that is really an important. So Geshe-la was saying that for himself he doesn't have such qualifications. But the minimum qualification that is needed is, of course, the teacher has to be more knowledgeable than students of whatever he's teaching. And also kind of spending enough time before kind of establishing a teacher-student relationship. We find such as in Geshe Chekawa, like spending. I'm sorry, this comes later. Spending like 12 years of examination, investigating, but His Holiness kind of advice, which is really kind of of course good advice, that when you study and practice and learn, instead of establishing spiritual teacher-student connection, you just have a consideration of your teacher as a good friend, so Dharma friend, and then studying and learning instead of, going into or making more kind of serious guru-student relationship. And then for practitioners who kind of renounce, which means giving up of ordinary, lay people's livelihood and just go for retreat. For that kind of serious practice, it requires a spiritual teacher who is, who knows well about you and you know well about your teacher, such as example that we see Geshe Chakawa, spending kind of 16 years with his teacher and then later attaining altruistic mind, and Geshe Sharawa was his teacher, so that kind of close understanding of each other is important. And currently we do have the practice such as in Manali tradition of Dukpakaju lineage, where a teacher actually the teaching of what we call the 6 sessions of 6-session practice, commonly called. So in that kind of meditation practice, what teacher does is teacher actually of course give teachings and instruction of meditation to students, and then student has to meditate and follow the instruction, and then they have to come back to teacher, sort of what we call offering of realizations. It's kind of examination test that you now tell your teacher how much you have gained realization or understanding or experience from it. So once you have reached the right level, then the teacher will say that you now can do this meditation in another. So promoting basically of and in monastery, the monks, when they finish Geshe degree, the highest degree, sometimes they go to the tantric monastery, higher and lower tantric monastery, and then they become an abbot. There's a one way like that. And another, as you mentioned, there are Geshes who, after finishing Geshe degree, they just give up their life in the community. They just go for a retreat and remain kind of spending the rest of their life just practicing what they have studied. One example was Tu Gangyur Rinpoche before Tibet, Chinese occupation. After finishing his entire study in a monastery, he went straight to retreat, cave basically, out of kind of the community, and then he came to exile straight from his cave to Dharamsala. And now in Dharamsala right now in northern India, they are above the mountains or hill. You'll still find Geshes who finish after finishing their study, they are staying in a kind of retreat. Most of those retreats are kind of solitary retreats, just by oneself. And there are Geshes, some Geshes in monastery after finishing this, study, they stay at the monastery and continuously give teachings to the younger monks. And of course, the teachings in the monastery, the teaching system is really kind of a good way of teaching system, and with that, the teachers who give teachings, they are highly respected, and respected by their own abbots or administrations, and because of course the teaching is important. So if there's no good teachings, then there are many things that could lose in the process of teaching or educating the younger generations. Physicians. Kondo sambo de ande jin de da gunje jesu da lo jin kya wa de da tham je rab su Sumshaben Jawa Tamje Ngowa Kanglo Chodo Ngakwa Denda Shingewe Zawa Dikin Sambo Jenje Rabdo Ngowa Raiki in the lands in the land encircled by snow-white mountains, the source of all happiness and benefits flows in your person, charity, tension, gyatso, remained until samsara ends. Just as the Bodhisattva Manjushri attained omniscience and summoned about the truth, so now do I dedicate this source to train and follow in their footsteps. As all the victories of Buddha's past, present, and future praise dedication to the Supreme, so now I do dedicate this source of Muhammad for all beings to perfect good actions.